Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Alex Bonifer about Kevin Can F Himself, premiering August 22nd on AMC, Season 2. Welcome to the show, man. Welcome back to the show. It's so good to see you.
Thank you for having me back. It's so great to see you too.
Oh, man, it's so crazy. Alex is back. Kevin Can F Himself is back. Neil is back. He's going to be back on our screens.
Whether you like it or not, Neil is back. Baby.
Neil is back. Do you feel like you've kind of gotten to know the character enough after 2 seasons or even after season 1? Like season 2 is kind of where you're back. You're like, okay, I had 1 season of playing this character. Like, I'm curious what it's like mindset-wise coming back to play a character for a 2nd season.
It's great, you know, because if, in my opinion, if you're doing it right, you already know him. Like yep. I already knew who Neil was inside and out. So whatever was thrown my way and his way, I knew how he was going to feel about it, how he would, you know, how he would respond and emotionally and things like that. So truly a blessing to come back, especially in this way where Neil is seen through a different lens. You know, spoiler alert if you haven't seen season 1, but the finale, you've seen him in multicam all season long and that's it. And in the finale, he's thrust into sort of the single cam lens. So, you know, getting to do both with the same character that I'd already known so well was a gift, truly.
It's such a unique show and unique blurry characters. I feel like it's hard to kind of get used to kind of the vibe and the situation, like the sitcom life and then the not sitcom. I feel like, have you ever grasped and gotten used to that? Like, it's pretty unique, right? And different.
Yeah, totally. I mean, what I always took and gleaned from the multicam scenes were, you know, I really understood the role and the role that they played on the show and yep. sort of the feelings and emotions that the viewers were supposed to have, which is like a little bit of like, I'm over this guy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like him either. So it's a weird storytelling vessel and device that Val and Craig and the writers came up with, which is like, we're seeing a person and we're seeing a setting that we're supposed to be laughing at and enjoying and liking. But he's also a terrible person. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Kevin is a terrible person. So understanding the role that serves, I think it's brilliant. I think for me, growing up loving sitcoms and watching sitcoms and still watching some today, but even like, you know, the classics, like my favorite show growing up was 70s Show. There's a lot of nostalgia in that. There's nostalgia in sort of the silly antics that Kevin and Neil concoct in the 1st season and, you know, carried through to the 2nd season. So, but ultimately, I just think it's a really savvy storytelling device to use that medium and to show villains through that medium, you know?
Social media kind of makes this a little bit impossible, Alex, but can you imagine like watching episode 1 of season 1 of that show of Kevin Can F Himself not knowing anything?
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine? Like, what would that be like for the audience member? Like, because it's like full out like sitcom right away. Can you imagine that swerve? That would be like,
I mean, I lived it. You know what I mean? I lived it. So yeah, I can fully imagine. It's just, you know, it's that first switch in 101, episode 101 is so, you know, jarring mm-hmm. to put it best, I think, because you're just not used to that. You've never really seen that turn. You know, when a character leaves the room, you're like, she's like hit in the face where all the viewers are hit in the face with this new sort of reality.
And it kind of sets the tone. And then you're kind of like questioning how many times they're going to cut back to not the single, like, right? Like you're like kind of on your, like, you're kind of like on your toes, like edge of your seat a little bit. Like, hey, when are we going to go back and forth? Like we're craving that, like, back from like the sitcom to like the reality where we got to figure this out because these guys are the worst. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, and my favorite part about this sort of narrative choice mm-hmm. is that each one informs the other. And my favorite part is when, you know, Patty and Allison in season 1 are being pulled over in Vermont with guns and drugs. and Kevin is trying to have her. What is he trying to do in that episode? It's not meats. I'm thinking of the first episode where she picks up a phone and Kevin is just trying to get breakfast meats for his for his boss that's coming over. So, and she has to deal with that. There are real world, there's real world consequences.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I was thinking of the episode in season 1 where Patty and Allison are in Vermont and Kevin sets the house on fire.
The fire. I was about to say, yeah, it was at the fire scene. Yeah.
So that in multicam, it's a silly thing, of course. It's just smoke machines and Kevin's going to get out and everything's going to be fine. But Allison has to deal with like the ramifications of what Kevin has done,
So I find this interesting because I feel like one of the reasons why I think this is one of the most, it's one of the most groundbreaking, amazing, important shows in my opinion, because I feel like this show is like, the show is showing how like there is always serious undertones as well with like you said with sitcoms. Like it's always there, you know what I mean? Some of my favorite ones growing up, like Boy Meets World, like there were some crazy things in that, you know what I mean? Like Sean Hunter was involved with the mob, he was in a cult, like you know what I mean, going with that, you know what I mean?
Of course.
You did a lot of sketch comedy as well, and do you still do sketch comedy?
I do, yeah. I'm a member of the Groundlings main company, so I'm a Groundling, Theaters on Melrose. So yeah.
Yeah, I knew you were part of that. I just wasn't sure because there's a lot happens and things change, and I feel like you were on the show last year, and it feels like I talked to you like 5 years ago. Like I missed you.
Yeah.
But did you always see comedy with like serious undertones, like having that, or were you always just focusing on kind of the slapstick components?
No, I approach comedy. I like to say I'm serious about my comedy, but laugh, which is true. My approach to comedic work is very detail oriented and serious, from when I'm writing something to when I'm costuming something to when I'm performing something. But one of the ways that you can that can typically lend itself to comedy is when you are very serious about something very silly. You know what I mean? So that's sort of those blend well, if you're serious about something little. So the approach in terms of what I brought to, even in season 1, the multicam scenes, it was always very, from an emotional standpoint, very grounded and very real. Now the performance obviously is sitcom, it's multicam, it's bigger, it's dopier, but the emotions that I was feeling as I'm, doing all these multicam scenes were very real. Neil cared more about Kevin than anything, more than his own sister. And so that love for this man and any stupid little antic that he wanted to concoct is funny. And then you take that same level of emotion and you put it, at the end of season 1 and into season 2, sort of the grittier side of this guy, of Neil. There's not a huge difference, really. It's what's going on.
And to kind of add to that without kind of spoilers, because I know that could be difficult. I feel like that's why, like, anytime I do an interview with someone like yourself, like my questions are very like strategic, where like, I don't like, even if I've seen it, like I still don't like, I want people to go in fresh. Like I want this to be enough that people are like, okay, let's check this out without you giving much away. But what can we expect pace-wise for season 2 of Kevin Can F Himself? Like, what are we expecting storyline and like pace-wise for this upcoming season? For Neil or in general? I feel like you can answer like A, B, right? Like for Neil or in general.
Totally. I mean, so this is the second and final season. Yeah. So you can go in expecting all of the loose ends to be tied up. You know what I mean? Where we told a complete story in 2 seasons, 16 episodes. And for Neil, for my character in particular, this is only a spoiler if you haven't seen the finale of season 1, you do see him in single cam for the very first time. And also not a spoiler if you've seen the trailer, you see him in single cam more in the second season. So you get to sort of, for Neil, you get to see him for the first time, like really have to look at himself. And
when did you find out? Like, how far in advance did you get the scripts, Alex? If you don't mind me asking, like, when did you know that he was like? Did you know? When did you know you were getting those single cam moments?
I mean, I didn't know for sure what was to come. I did know that we would be picking up essentially right where we left off. So right in the kitchen. So I knew that, which meant I knew that at least in that next scene, I'd be in single cam. But after that,
how much in advance for? So sorry, I didn't answer that question. I didn't ask that question properly. I apologize. When did you? Because how it ends, right? When did you know about that? Did you get the episode? Like when did you know about that? Did you get all the scripts right away for season 1?
So for season 1, we were actually scheduled to leave the week that the world shut down because of the global pandemic.
Yes.
So, and then it was 6 more months of a shutdown where we weren't filming. So we would do, to kind of keep the cast connected and the team connected, we would do these sort of like informal Zoom table reads. So we would get enrolled. I knew before I flew to Boston for season 1 that's how it ended.
Okay.
But when I got the script, I mean, I literally talk about a page turner. My heart was pounding. And that final, why? What is happening? Why is Neil here? Why is he just with Allison? What is going on? And then when I saw that he was now, so how the scripts are written, the multicam scenes are italicized and the single scenes are in standard font. So when I saw Neil in a scene with Neil for the first time, not italicized, I was like, oh shit, this is. And
that's a pretty crazy wild ride to see for Neil specifically, seeing that, right? It's like a journey just for your character, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it really, and he so for what you can expect from Neil is Neil goes on a journey in the second season. You know, he goes on a real journey. And at the show at large, you know, you're getting to see, it's still very much a story about Allison McRoberts and her neighbor and best friend, Patty O'Connor, Annie and Mary Hollis, respectively. And they're trying to essentially save Allison's life or get her life back, the life that she lost or that she should have. And they struggle and they're not perfect. They're human. And watching those sort of human struggles, they don't have the answers. They don't know what they're doing at times, but they're going through this thing together, this journey, for which really bonds them, you know what I mean? And like I said, without giving anything away, like loose ends are tied, and it's a very sort of satisfying end in that way, you know. Would have been a real bummer if the show ended after the first season the way that it ended with that cliffhanger. So there's not really any cliffhangers for this one, which is I'm a big fan of personally. You walk away feeling satisfied.
Absolutely. And season 2 is premiering on AMC August 22nd. So it is right around the corner. Alex, pleasure catching up. Thank you so much for coming back on the show, man.
Thank you for having me. PD Beats, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. And no, it was really, again, I feel like we did, so that last year was when we did the interview, right? We did the interview for season 1. That felt like such a long time ago, did it not?
Lots happened. I mean, I had another kid, you know what I mean? Like I moved, I had another kid, the stuff has happened for sure.
It's so crazy. Yeah, they're just nonstop things. So season 2, you have an Instagram account that people could follow as well?
Yeah, it's just at Alex Bonifer. All
right. And everyone's excited to see more of kind of Neil's journey for season 2. So it's that's awesome. August 22nd. This has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Till next time, it's Alex Bonifer, who plays Neil in Kevin Can F Himself on AMC, and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.